All right, and hello there. Thanks for stopping by. How's everybody doing tonight? Didn't mean to show the calendar there, but that's what today is. Oh, this stream's probably gonna be a mess, but it is what it is, I suppose. All right, give me 1 second. Yeah, so like I said, this stream is probably going to be a mess. Probably not the best topic to mess this up on. I debated on whether or not I should do this stream or if I should do like a gaming stream and show you guys like gaming on Linux and stuff like that. I think what I'll do is I'll wait to do the gaming stream for next time. But I really wanted to get into this awesome WM configuration because I wanted to show it off, and I have yet to make a video on it. I've been waiting to get like just the right configuration that I wanted for it. So it's been a challenge. I'm not gonna say it's rough because it really wasn't all that rough to me. It was just more of I'd say a challenge to get everything just the way that I wanted it. Um, yeah, the reason why today's stream is probably as messed up as it is because I tried to use their flat hub, yeah. I tried to use their flat packs for using OBS Studio, and it crashed on me twice. And I said, no, we're going to go back to using OBS with Debian's repositories. So, yeah, I had a time with that, trying to make sure that everything was right. So, yeah, it is going to be a little messy, but I still think doing this video is worth it. But I wanted to do it live just because it would require me to do a lot of editing, which I don't want to do a lot of editing when it comes to this particular video. So I thought it would be better to do it with the live thing, and then that way if people had questions, they could ask their questions or what have you. But yeah, I guess I can go ahead and get started with the video. So nothing really too crazy so far in this code. The only thing that I did in this area was I suspended the naughty section. I suspended naughty because I don't want notifications on my desktop. I just find that the notifications, they don't really do anything for me. They never have, and they really didn't have any use for me on Windows. I was always trying to constantly find ways to hide notifications, and so what I did was I just disabled naughty altogether because it's not my thing. But yeah, there's also a thing that I commented out. It's this naughty.config.defaults.timeout equals 0. That's so that way, in case I did want notifications, they didn't disappear on me in 5 seconds. Like if I wanted to just click on it to just make it go away, I could do so, and it'd be fine. I just didn't want that delay in case I did want to do something like that. So let's get on down to rounded corners, because rounded corners was one of the first things that I added to this configuration when I was starting, because I really like the rounded corners. So what I did was I set a local function, set shape, and if the window was not in full screen and it wasn't maximized, then it would have rounded corners. And if it was anything like, okay, let me restate that. I don't think I stated that correctly. If it was not in full screen and it was not maximized, then it would have rounded corners. But if it was full screened or it was maximized, that's when you would just have a rectangle. Like just, your regular everyday window that's square. And then for this here, I had to add some things. Like I had to connect signals. The first signal that I had to connect was request manage, and then request border. And then I had to do it for 3 properties. I had to do it for floating, I had to do it for full screen, and maximized. Because you've got to connect signals to say, hey, I want you to do this thing when I want you to do it, right? So if it was floating, then it would, I believe that it would do its rounded corners. I know on if it wasn't full screen and it wasn't maximized, it would have the rounded corners. So thus if it was floating, it had its own thing too, I think. I don't know. It's been a while since I did the code, but I know that when it's floating, it still stays with the rounded corners. And you see the rounded corners now, obviously. So the other thing that I did in terms of the rounded corners was back up here, I had to add something into here. I had to call on gears. Gears equaling the fact that we had to require for gears. So this was theme.client_shape_rounded. And this was so that way we could set it as a variable. Essentially, is what we did. And we set it equal to a function where we did circle radius, width, and height. So the gears.shape.rounded_rect, the reason why we put all of this here was so that we could specify that we wanted the radius to be 20. And I mean, you can have it whatever radius that you want, but I had mine set to 20 just because I like having, I like it to have it more rounded. But some people may only put it at like 5. Some people may put it at like 10. It doesn't really matter. The point is that the reason why we put this in our theme.lua is so that way we could specify the radius. So yeah, that's why we stuck it there. We didn't stick it here because it was more of a function than it was part of the theming. So that's why we stuck all this code here, was so that way it would, like everything just worked, right? Everything worked like it was supposed to if we put the code here. What's another thing that we did here? Because I think we got some. Oh yeah, Terminator. Oh my God, not Terminator, Terminal. Yeah, the terminal. We use Kitty. We always use Kitty in this house. In this house, we use Kitty. So, yeah, that's so that way in the code in the future, whatever it needed to be called on, we could just call on terminal. We could just call on this variable here. So that way we could use it as our terminal instead of having to write it out everywhere that we went. And that's usually pretty helpful to have like a variable that is here, so that way you can just edit the variable instead of editing each and every place that you stuck it. And you'll see where that becomes more relevant in this coding. So editor, I think we left it. The editor command, I think we also left it. Oh yeah, the awful.layout.layouts. This was a section where we commented out a lot of things in this configuration. We commented out the suit, as far as the tile, the fair, one of the spirals, we commented out max and max full screen because that was starting to get on my nerves. Magnifier and the corners. We commented all those out because I personally like to have mine on a dwindle, which is like, I mean, the best way to do it is to show you, but like there's an icon here that best represents it. It has your window. Let me just show you. All right, so do you notice how we have all of these windows here? Like it starts to dwindle at the bottom here, but you know, your biggest one is here, your second biggest is here, third biggest is here, and so on and so forth. So let me go ahead and close out of all of that. And so what I did was I left dwindle on and I left floating on. And I left on floating because there are some applications where I absolutely have to have it in a floating environment or else it will not work properly. So I had to make sure that I had that floating. What is it? What is going on with this? I don't understand that. It's giving me like notifications there. That's new. But yeah. So mod key is the variable, and that's going to be used throughout because you're going to have commands like, especially in your key bindings, in which you're going to have you're going to have to use your mod key along with another key to make the function work correctly. So give me just a second. I want to make sure that everything's running okay. Yeah, everything seems to be fine. All right. So got that out of the way. What's the next thing that we did? Oh, now we get into the fun part. We get into a fun part because, as I say in my videos, if you have trouble finding the Wii bar section, look at menu bar configuration, look at keyboard map indicator and switcher, and then you'll come across Wii bar. So this was an interesting thing here. And what I did here was I had to do a formatting for my calendar. So as you can see with this calendar, it's rounded, and so are the dates. The dates are rounded and stuff like that. And so I had to create a function where it would have a rounded shape a little bit on down here, but I'll show you that later on. So the first thing we set up, because there's some things that you're going to want to set up before you even establish it in your Wii bar. That's the reason why I stuck it here. I stuck it in this section here because you want to start these things before you get down to where your actual Wii bar configuration is. And one of the things that we started was the text clock. Now the text clock is one of those things that you're not going to get away with just having a clock without having the calendar too. So it combines both of them in one. And what I did was I used a very simple formatting, or I say it's simple, but I used a formatting to format the time. So that way we have the hour here, the minute here, and the seconds here, as well as whether it's AM or PM. And then in the calendar section, we had what the day of the week is, the month, the day, and then the year. And we set this to an interval of 1. And the reason why we set this to an interval of 1 is because we're showing seconds. Now, if I was showing minutes, anyways, okay, so I'm starting to notice that with OBS, it lets me know that there's some sort of disconnection thing going on. Yeah, I think it's just my internet. Sometimes it likes to do that. So let's see, where was I'm just I'm trying to make sure that everything looks good so far before I continue. Does everything look good? Because if nothing else, I'll have a VOD of this that I can just upload whenever I need to. If all else fails, I can just do that. I won't need to do any editing. Just upload it as it is. Yeah, so we set another variable, and this one's called month calendar. And this is equal to awful.widget.calendar underscore pop-up month. And what this is that this is so that way we can... Wow, this thing really doesn't want me to stream tonight. All right. So anyways, we have our month underscore calendar for the pop-up, pop-up month. And we start on Sunday. In other words, when we're looking at this, we're going to be starting the first day of the week on Sunday, because it had it on Monday as the first day of the week. I didn't like that at all. So we changed that. And then we changed it to long weekdays equals true, because I wanted it to spell out the days of the week more. Instead of it being spelled out with 2 letters, it spells it out with 3 letters. So that's what we did there. We set the background to black. The style month, even though you can't see this, is in a rounded border sort of thing too, which goes back to this function that we created earlier. We set the shape round, or we set the rounded shape to 20. We set the border width to 2 because all of our other borders are at 2 in my config. And then we set the border color to be white. But funny thing is, why wouldn't I see the white? It's supposedly supposed to be working. But if it's supposed to be white, I can't see it. That's gonna be oh, that's gonna be something I need to look back at the file. Once I go offline, I'm probably gonna investigate this, see what's going on with this file. 'Cause that's odd, right? That's a little odd. The style header. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so this is the border here. The header. This is what I was getting confused about, was the header. There's nothing on the header right now except for the fact that it's got a rounded shape as well. But the whole thing is supposed to be white and it's supposed to have a border of 2. I was wrong about that. Okay, so even though you can't see the header border, there's supposed to be a border here. The weekdays also have a border around them, even though you can't see them. And I put those in just so that way I don't have to remember this in the future. It helps so that way I don't have to look up the answers again whenever I get lost on it. So that's pretty good. As far as style normal is where you're not having any of the days selected, where none of the days are selected. So it also has a rounded shape. And I had to tweak this a bit because it was showing the harsh corners. And so I had to tweak it a little bit, make it 10 for the width, 10 for the height, and then 20 for the radius. And that seemed to have worked. And it obviously worked because I don't see the harsh corners. But I had to do that for the normal, and I had to do that for the focus. In other words, focused is like, so for example, today is the 11th, and it is focused, and that's why it's in white, is because it's focused. So definitely seems to have worked out there. And then we set month underscore calendar. We had to attach it to the text clock, and we attached it to the top right, which is why it is labeled TR here. As far as some of the widgets go, it's no longer called the Debian widget. It's my logo. I use my logo as the button for it. But I set a button so that way whenever I click on it, it will show up with Rofi. So that way I can access my applications and whatnot. So if we take a look at my Rofi, I just clicked on the button. This is my Rofi. This is what it looks like, right? So that's what that button does there. And we set the image to where the image is located. The widget is webox.widget.imagebox because it's an image and it needs to know that. And on the connect signal, we did it on button release. And the reason we did this on button release is because it went faster, I noticed. It definitely goes faster whenever, because like I had it on button press, and it took like 3 or 4 seconds to load at some point on one of the widgets. So what I ended up doing was I did it on release, and once you do it on release, it's a little faster, in my opinion. And then we set a function, and the function was set to awful.spawn, so that way we could spawn Rofi. And hold on just a second. Checking to make sure things haven't gone wonky. All right, there we go. Seems to have fixed it. So yeah, sometimes I have to stop because like people don't hear what I said, and so rather than having to repeat myself, I just I wait to talk before it happens. But so yeah, that's what my logo does. What is going on here? Okay, it still says that I'm live though. All right. So then the next thing that we went to is we did my power. And this was a button once again that we set the text to a text in my, I think it's either font awesome or nerd fonts that we did this for. And we I'm trying to remember because I don't remember whether it was nerd fonts or font awesome, but like I do have both of those installed, so that's what I used for the text up here. And it is a text box widget, so we set the widget to that. We set a tooltip on it. And I never went over this because I'm probably going to do a video on this eventually if I haven't done one already. I don't think I have. But I'm going to do a video on tooltips and buttons. But I definitely going to do one on the uptime. So the uptime, I had to do some weird things with this one. So the object was going to be my power. So in other words, it was going to attach itself to my power as the variable. And we would set a timer function. And the guide for, or the documentation for AwesomeWM says at some point not to use io.popen for buttons, but we're not using this as a button. We're using this as a tooltip. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but I can't get the code to work any other way. And so what we did for this was, this is running through like a bash command, for example. Well, not for example, it literally is running as a bash command. It's uptime-p. We pipe all that into awk. We print uptime, and $2 is going to be our variable for that. And then what I did was I wanted to, like, as far as the word days, the word minutes, the word hours, I wanted to capitalize all those. So what I did was I did a substring. So in other words, I substituted the string so that way I could capitalize each of the letters in the words. And so that's what I did for that. And I did that, like I said, I did it for all of it. So like if you take a look at this tooltip here now, it says the uptime is 1 day, 1 hour, and 14 minutes. It capitalized all of the letters, and at the same time, we're also trying to pass in $ parameters here. And that's so that way we can get our value. Because this value is our day, this is our hour, and this is our minute. So the rest of this, as far as like substring and stuff like that, those are our $3, $5, and $7 variables. So I did all this. Like I said, it would not recognize it any other way, so I had to do a io.popen. And when we get to the updates widget, I'll tell you why I decided to, I'll tell you what happened with me, rather. I'll tell you what happened, because there was an experience that I had that kind of confirms why you shouldn't use io.popen as much as possible, or at all if you can get away with it. But in this case, there was no other way for me to get this, because it was not allowing for anything else. Because I tried many methods for this. But as far as my power, there's a connect signal on button release. If the button was 1, in other words, if it's your left clicker, then it would spawn Rofi. But this time it would spawn the power menu of Rofi, which that's important to make that distinction there. So the weather widget was one of the first things, if actually it was the first thing that I covered on my channel, was how to get the weather widget. The weather widget hasn't really changed that much, but I set a variable called myweather, set it equal to awful.widget.watch, and I set it to a curl command where it would pull in wttr.in, and I set like a special format for it, and then I piped that into awk where I printed off whatever it said that it was. So I set the interval to 600 seconds. That is equivalent to 10 minutes. I did that every 10 minutes just because I felt like it wasn't going to update every second, so why even bother? But I figured every 10 minutes would be suffice. So on button release, I set it to spawn Firefox, and I'm running the ESR version of Firefox, and it puts it in a new tab, and it goes to weather.com. Now, I think that was the only thing different that I did from that video. The volume widget. Now, I don't know how recent this video was, but I did this video, and there's a lot that has changed since that video. For starters, we have a tooltip on it. Anyways, my volume was equal to Weebox.widget. We set the text to a volume icon. We set the widget to text box because of it. And then we set another tooltip. And the tooltip goes to the my volume variable. And we used, yet again, another io.popen because it was a tooltip. And that's the thing about tooltips, was that I couldn't, for the life of me, get the normal way of doing this to work. Which the normal way of doing this would be like to spawn with like a easy async with shell or something like that. And it just wasn't having it. It just wasn't doing it in a tooltip. I don't know what the difference was, but it just wasn't working for me. So we had to go with what worked, essentially. So anyways, once we did all that, it opened in io.popen. We used, so here's the thing. I have Pipewire installed, but I believe I also have Pulse Audio installed. I don't know how the distinction works between Pipewire and Pulse Audio. I know that I use both, though. It just depends on what task that I'm using it for. And in this particular case, we used Pulse Audio to get the volume of our speakers, because I want to know what the percentage is in our speakers. And I had to do a little formatting here. I had to printf, and then I piped all of that into sed, so that way I could, and it was giving me something extra that was on it, and I didn't want that extra bit, so that's why I used sed. So that way I could get rid of that extra bit that was on it. And so now what you have up here is like 100%, for example. And that was the tooltip section of it. So the connect signal was on button release. So if you click the button, I set it for a couple of if statements here. So if the button was a left click button and the text was this volume icon, then it would change it to a muted icon, and it would also mute my speakers. So in other words, it mutes your speakers and then it sets the icon, so that way you can be notified that it worked successfully. Else, if the button was left click and it was the muted sign, then we're just going to toggle that again, but this time we're going to give it a regular volume icon. So we did that, and because the command here for both buttons, like whether or not, whatever the text is irrelevant. What matters in this awful.spawn is that when you click on it, it toggles the mute. That's the whole purpose of that. So you toggle the mute and then you set the text. That's the pure basis of what we're wanting to do here. If the button was 4, so in other words, if you scrolled up with your scroll wheel, then it would set the sync volume plus 1%. And I told people, and I'm still telling people, that if you want, you can set it to like 5. I prefer to set it to 1. I want it to do it every 1 second or whatever. Or not 1 second, but I want to do it every 1 tick. And same thing goes for button 5. If you scroll down, then you're setting the sync volume down 1. So scroll up, plus 1. Scroll down, minus 1. And the thing about using the io.popen is that if you use it, do expect there to be some slowness. It can be a little bit slow. So I would definitely watch out for that. And you'll see why a little bit later on when it comes to the updates widget. Let's see, my mic. Now, the microphone, I didn't discuss this yet. I will discuss this in a future video. But it relatively works the same way as the volume. So you set your text box, you set the text for it. Then you set the tooltip. Make the objects go to the myMic variable. Use your io.popen. And that is but instead of getting the sync volume, you're getting the source volume. So your sync volume is your speakers, your source volume is your microphone, essentially. And we did the same thing with awk. We did the same thing with sed. So that way we could clean up the text a bit. And again, on button release, if the button equals 1 and the text equals this, then we toggle the mute of your microphone. And else if it was this icon, then we toggled it and set the text for it in this area. Button 4, if you scroll up, then your source volume goes up 1. If you scroll down, your volume goes down 1. So again, not too hard, but it is going to be an update to my it's going to be an update to, I guess, my original video when it came to volumes, because it's going to work relatively the same way. So my YouTube is set to a watch widget. So nothing essentially changed here. I think there was one thing that I changed about it, but we set this to awful.widget.watch. We wanted to watch for a bash command. We set the flag to -C. And in this, we are looking for our Python 3 path. So we're getting our Python 3 path so that we can pass in this path. And this path is going to our subscribers.py file. And we piped all of that into awk. We printed with the YouTube icon and made sure that we had our $1, which is %D here. %D is what makes your variable show up. So we did all that so that way we could show the amount of subscribers. And if you're following along, as I'm talking about this, look at the WeBar and look at all the elements that I'm talking about. And then that way you can get an idea of what it is that I'm talking about exactly. Because I'm just talking about code right now. We haven't even gotten into the actual formation of the WeBar. We're just setting up widgets at this point. So, let's see. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Awesome plus Arch Linux. Nah, it is AwesomeWM, but it's not running Arch. We're running Debian. It's Debian stable. I do like Arch though. I just not really wanting to use it as my daily driver, but I appreciate Arch. I do. There's a lot of things I like about it. I especially like their Pac-Man setup going on. I think it's great for that. But yeah, so we set the button release to spawn a new tab in Firefox. This goes to my studio.youtube, so that way I can look at my stats whenever I want to. I just click on the button and it goes to it. So it's kind of like the weather widget does that. Nothing special. Now, the My Updates. This is where I got to tell you guys about my updates, because I left-clicked on this updates thing. It says I don't have any updates now, but I clicked on it one time. And it took anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds to unfreeze my WeBar. And the reason for that is because of that io.popen. That io.popen like it will freeze everything in your WeBar until that task is completed. So while it's running its updates, trying to get the update, it's going to stop everything else. And I'll show you in this code. So my updates, we set the text box widget to this icon. And on release, if the button was a left click, then we PK exec Nala update. Now, I did this because I wanted a simple way for me not to have to go into a terminal. I didn't want to have to do anything as far as my updates. I wanted to be able to click a button for it to see if there's any updates. And it does it. I have to type in my password every time, but that's what that PK exec is. That's so that way it pulls that policy kit. So while it's pulling that policy kit, trying to make that update, like I said, it freezes all the other processes if it's taking longer than a couple of seconds. Because if it's just a couple of seconds, you're not going to notice a difference. But if it's still loading for like 5 or 10 seconds, you're going to notice a difference. You might freak out for a second, but actually what it is that it's taking the time to run through that command. So that's the tip that I can give you for that. Actually, hold on a second. Can the way bar be placed vertically on the left? For the way bar. I think there's a way that you can do it on way bar. I'm not running. I mean, I've used way bar before. I never tried it though. I do know that you can. I think you can do it in. Let's see. I think you can do it in AwesomeWM, which that might be what you're asking me. You might be asking me about AwesomeWM's WeBar. But I think there's a way. Yeah, I've never tried that before. I've never thought about that. If you want me to do a video on it in the future, let me know and I'll do some research and I can let you know what I find out about it. I do take requests. So, getting back to this code here. So on the second button is where you click on your scroll wheel because you can actually click on it. Most of the time in Linux, when you click on it, you just paste whatever it is that you've got in your clipboard. You paste it with your middle clicker. But in this case, I have it set to my terminal, and I want it to hold. So in other words, I want it to hold the terminal instead of let me think for a second. I want it to hold so that way it doesn't go away, because it has this tendency. Okay, and we're back. All right. So what I was saying was that the kitty -- hold, you want to hold the terminal so that way it doesn't go anywhere, because it does have a tendency to just not pop up. So we want to get the apt list when we click on the middle button. We want to be able to see what packages we have left in there. And then we add that -- upgradable to see what is upgradable. Because if you don't add the -- upgradable, then you're just seeing your whole app list. So definitely add in that -- upgradable if you're going to do that. If it's button 3, in other words, if it's a right-click button, we're going to kitty -- hold, because this time we want to sudo into Nala upgrade. So our left-click button is going to be to find updates. Our middle button is going to see what the upgrade list is. And our right click button is going to be our upgrade button. So the My Updates tooltip, as I was saying before, that io.popen, it will, the io.popen, it likes to freeze your WeBar temporarily. And it doesn't really do a freeze. It just stops everything from moving until that action is complete. So nothing's really froze necessarily. But yeah, so the io.popen, it is set to app list -- upgradable. And that's that way we can get how many updates are in this, which is why we pipe it into word count, which is WC. We do a -L to get the list of how many updates there are. And in this command, we pipe it into awk, and we do our printf to print it out how we want to. So in other words, how it looks now, that's because of using awk. And then our variable here is $1, which is our value. And we minus that by 1 because I noticed that if you don't minus it, if you don't minus it, it shows up 1 more than there should be. So like you can have all your updates done and it shows 1 more package that's not really there, and that's because it gives you a warning stating that that using apt in this way, or like using apt list, is unsteady or unstable, something like that, to be careful in using it. So that's what I would say, is that you need to minus it by 1 so that way it's not counting the error or the warning, because it's counting the warning when you don't minus it. The internet speed widget. This video recently came out, and one of the things I didn't discuss was the 0.0f. I didn't discuss that in depth. I discussed a lot of things in depth, but I didn't discuss the 0.0f and the 0.2f sort of thing. So we're watching for a bash command. We set the -c flag, and we set this to ifstat. Now, ifstat is a package that it tells you what your internet speed is. It tells you your down speed and your upload speed. So you have to get the last line because it prints off more than one line. And so you have to be able to get the last line somehow. So what you do here is that you -I for the input, and then whatever your internet connection is, which it tells you in the application what it is. Like for some people it could be like WLAN, for others it's ENP, some could be, I don't know what it is for Wi-Fi, but whatever it is for Wi-Fi, it's for that too. We pipe, well actually before we pipe that, we're wanting to get for every 1 second, and we're wanting to get 1 result out of the 2. Because I think it gets 2 results. So we pipe all that into tail, and we -in 1 because we want the 1 result. And so we piped all that into awk, where we stated that if the $1 was less than 1, which is our download speed, and $2 is less than 1, which our $2 was our upload speed, then it would printf with our download speed and our upload speed. It was %.0fb, and the B stood for bytes. The .0f was so that way we could get rid of the we wanted to get rid of the decimals. We wanted to get rid of the yeah, like I said, we wanted to get rid of like what was at the end of the decimal so that we didn't have a decimal in our number. Hello, sir, please reply to me. I'm not sure if you asked a question. If you did, I did not receive it. But welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're just going over the internet speed widget, where this is actually the last widget of configuring in my configuration file before I continue on into what my other code is. So anyways, we got our information there, and $1 times 1,000, and then $2 times 1,000. And when you're converting into bytes from kilobytes, because it reads it all in kilobytes, so when you convert it into bytes, you have to times it by 1,000 in order to get the number that you seek. And if you wanted to be pedantic about it, you could do 1024, which is like, I think it's the binary way of doing it. I don't remember the term for that, but it is another way of doing it. Else, if you're not getting 4 bytes, let's say you're getting megabytes. So if it's greater than or equal to 1,000 for your download speed or your upload speed, then your printf is going to be this, and we're going to divide it by 1,000. And we divide it by 1,000 because we're having to convert to megabytes. And instead of going down, you're going up. And that's the ironic thing about it, is like, the more you go up, the more you have to divide. I thought that was definitely ironic, but for some people it may make sense. Who knows? So if we're not looking for megabytes, let's say we're looking for gigabytes, because some of you guys have better internet than I do. That's just a given. Some of you may have gigabyte speeds. So I wanted to accommodate for that. So what you do is that if it's greater than or equal to 1 million, because you're having to move over like 3 digits or something like that just to get the right measurements, then we're going to print all this in gigabytes, and we're going to divide this by 1 million. And then we if there's nothing else, if there's no other parameters that we're putting into this, no other conditions, then we're just going to stick it with kilobytes. But that %.0f is so that way we can get rid of whatever's at the, like, whatever's past the decimal. We want to get rid of that. So now we enter into some interesting text here. This is about my Pac-Man stuff, and I do plan to do a video on this. But I will try to go over it as much as I can. It would take too long for me to like go back and forth between the code, so I'll go through it as I see fit, which is why I'm going to do a future video on it, because I want it to be more condensed and more polished whenever I do this video. But for our tag list, for our function here, if what I wanted to put here was that if the selected name was a ghost, then it would find by name, it would find Pac-Man, and it would replace it with a ghost, and then the selected name would be Pac-Man. So in other words, if I select with my left click, if I select up here on this ghost, it now turns into Pac-Man, and this one turns into a ghost. And it turns into a ghost because what it does is that it finds it by name that wherever the Pac-Man is, it just turns it into a ghost. So that's how we get it with our left click. Our right click. No, scrolling up. We did the same thing when we scrolled up. So we scroll up and it replaces whatever needs to be replaced with a ghost and makes your selected a Pac-Man. So we did that when you scroll up and we did that when you scroll down. Let's see what else we did here. Did I do anything with... I don't think I did anything with wallpaper. Maybe I did. I think I had to. I don't know. Maybe I set that up somewhere else. We'll figure it out. So the tag list. This is what my tag list looks like by default. Where Pac-Man shows up on the first tag, and then on the rest of the tags, it shows up with ghosts. And we have 9 workspaces that we're dealing with here. And if you see here, oh yeah, that's another thing I'll have to show you guys later. But basically, Pac-Man looks like he's eating all the ghosts here. That's the reason why I am doing the Pac-Man stuff, is because I want the effect that Pac-Man is eating ghosts. That's the whole reason for the code. So let's see, what else is there? I don't think I did anything different with the layout box. What else did I do? Tag list. Okay. So the tag list widget. This is where I set colors. I set different colors for the ghosts. So the ghost, the first ghost is the ghost whenever he turns blue in Pac-Man. And then the rest of the colors are my rainbow colors. Except for the last two. The last two was like a pink one and a white one. The pink one was more of like one of the Pac-Man ghost colors. And the white was just because I ran out of colors to do. So I just chose white for that. Let's see. I set filter to all for the tag list. So that way I'd see all of my tags. Because without this, I can't see all of the ghosts. And I want to be able to see all the ghosts that Pac-Man can eat. What is another thing that I did? Maybe it was under... Yeah, it was under this. So I made a widget template for this. And I set the text box to equal text role. So basically, whatever this was here, that was the icon, or the text in this case, that it was going to take. Then that was under a container background. We set the ID equal to background role. And we created a function. We created this function because we wanted to have the Pac-Man guys change colors whenever you are looking at one of them. So whenever the mouse enters, it turns it into that blue color, blue color that you see in the game. So basically that's what it does, is that if there is a backup, which these are the backup colors, the backup colors is set to... Alright, And we're back. Don't know why my internet keeps doing that, but whatever. So, yeah, so I guess as I was saying, we have it, give it that blue color whenever we enter into it, and then when we leave the tag list, it goes back to its default color. That's the whole purpose of this code here. So let's go down. I think the only thing that I did in this task list, because I've got task list, I've got it commented out at the moment because I'm not using it. So what I did was I commented out buttons and I aligned it center. I set the disable icons to true, but that was about it. Okay. All right. So the LC stands for left corner. So I believe it goes like the top left, top right, bottom left. Because I know this is bottom, or this is top left, and this is bottom left. And that's what the left corner is. The right corner is where you've got the top right and the bottom right. And the LRC is left and right corners. So all of it's set to true. Because I wanted rounded corners in my Wii bar for this. So that's why I rounded it like I did. And so yeah, I did that so I could round it. We set the position on top. Oh, I believe this was where the question was coming in earlier. I could set this to the position being on the left if I wanted to. But this is where I would set the Wii bar position. I set mine on top. And screen, I left to however many screens that I've got because I don't want to specify it. Set the height to 50, and I set excuse me, I set on top to false. And that's as far as my Wii box. That sets up the Wii bar. And then I've got some variables here, and I set these variables up because this text down here gets awfully long. And so I wanted some variables to be able to test this out. So the widget background I set to black. The margin background I set to white. And the margin background is the line up here. If you see this white line up here and down here, that's your margins. In other words, borders, basically. So your border backgrounds is going to be white. I set the margin left, margin right, margin top, and margin bottom to 2 because there's going to be some use cases in which I'm going to need to use it for that. And then there's going to be some situations probably where I set margin corners and I set them to 20 as far as that goes. And that's so that way I could round the margin corners. That's why I did that to 20. I don't have to worry about the bottom border. In fact, I don't remember why I even have it in this code to begin with. I could probably just get rid of it and never look back. I think it was because of this down here, but I've already replaced it with a bunch of stuff, so it doesn't really matter anymore. We set the layout to align horizontal, expand none. And this is a lot of code here. It's a lot of code, but I'll try to go through it with you. So for my weather, we'll use my weather as an example, and then you can see where I did this to everything else. So my weather was the variable that we used for the weather widget. We set the top to margin top. We set the bottom to margin bottom. We set the left to margin corners because we want the corners. and we set color equal to the margin background, and we set widget to be the webox.container.margin, because this is all the margin container. This is all within a margin container, and all of this is within a background container. So the background has the widget background. The widget, like I said, is the container background. The shape was LC, and the shape clip is true. And the shape clip is just basically so that way it keeps everything inside of the shape. We don't want it leaving anywhere, in other words. So if you can imagine doing all that to the rest of these, like my YouTube, for example, my net, my logo, my power, stuff like that. Although I didn't go over these icons. And these icons up here was like my CPU, my memory, and my hard drive. So they're all bash commands. The CPU runs the vmstat, the memory runs free, and the hard drive runs df. And we piped all that. I piped vmstat into tail and then printed it out. I set the number here to be subtracted from 100, so that way we can tell how much is being used of your CPU. In that 1, 2, I believe it gets 2 lines, but it only selects one of them, which is why we have this tail here. The free, we used a -M flag for memory. We grepped into that, trying to get the memory line, and then we printed it off. And we divided it by $2 times 100. And this was so that way we could get how much memory has been used. I'm trying to remember what the numbers were thinking back on it, because I think what it was like how much memory is total divided by how much memory was used or left or something like that. I think it's how much was left. I don't remember. I'd have to look back at the, not necessarily the code, but just look back at the bash command, like type it in and see what that looked like. Because it's, but we set all these to like an interval of 1 second, because I wanted to see it every 1 second. The hard drive has a -H flag on it, and it is going to my SDA2 path. We pipe that into grep, getting the dev/SDA2 line. Give it just a second. Anyways, we piped all that into awk and got our value from the hard drive. And instead of figuring out how much was left, which is what I thought I wanted originally, I just wanted to see how much I had already used. So, but you can minus that from 100 if you wanted to. I think I forgot to mention that in the video as well. Let's see. As far as all that goes, though, that's pretty much all the same. The middle widgets. So this was the thing about the order that it confused me at first, but like once I figured this out, it was great because I was finally able to have more than one widget in my middle widget section. So basically everything in these curly brackets here, in this section of curly brackets, is your left widgets, this is your middle widgets, and then this is your right widgets. So you put all of them in curly brackets. So that way you get what you need. So in my middle widgets section, what we just went over was my left widgets. Now we're in my middle widgets. And my middle widgets is my logo, my tag list, my layout box, which is this up here. And then I commented out my task list because I never know whether or not I'm going to want to go back to a thing. So instead of deleting the code, I'll just leave it in, but I'll comment it out in case I want to go back to it. So I commented that out, and then we've got my power. And basically you can see the path in which we're going here as far as all of this is. Like this right here in these curly brackets, that is all within a margin container, and this is all within a background container. And how you shape it and how you work it, you can work it in such a way to get a layout similar to mine, to where not only does it have the rounded corners here, but it also has that border, and it also has the background. Excuse me, it also has the background for it. And in the right widget section, again, for all of these, we set the layout to fixed.horizontal. The layouts, we've got my updates, the system tray. I'm really bummed that you can't customize that system tray, but you have the system tray. You have my volume, my mic, and my text clock. And I think that was pretty much it as far as that list goes. I commented out a majority of this stuff, but I set the margins to 10 under here because all of this is within a margin container as well. And to the life of me, I can't remember what that particular margins was, because I think, oh, I know what it was. It was the fact of like so that way it can look like it's floating. I wanted it to look like it was floating, so I did it that way. And yeah, I'm just checking something real quick. Hold on just a second. Okay. Yeah, so anyways, that's that way you can look like it's floating, is setting the margins in this margin container. More mouse bindings. So we set, I believe this was on the desktop. Like if you're on the desktop of it, you can use your up wheel or your down wheel, like scroll up or scroll down to get that Pac-Man effect once again. Where when you scroll, Pac-Man shows up on the next tag list, but then the last tag list he was on turns into a ghost and all that good stuff. It's able to do that. So pretty fun stuff up here. And I can't wait to do a video on it, because I really do want to do a video on it. I really do. I think it's going to be exciting. And it's a lot of remembering that I'm going to have to do. But, you know, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it because it's fun. It's fun to look at. Or at least to me, it's fun to look at. It's fun to play with sometimes. But, yeah, so key bindings. I changed some stuff in here. But remember earlier how I said that mod key was going to be important? Because mod 4 is your Windows key or your logo key. That got turned into a variable, and that variable is mod key. So it's able to do that. Yeah, I don't think I changed anything in this area. Okay. In our standard programs, I changed the print key, the print screen. I wanted the print screen to be um, to have like a screenshot, or no, that's the description. The description is to take a screenshot. The description is for your help menu that you get when you hit mod key S. So this is for flame shot. Flame shot GUI is what it spawns for that. Mod key D is what I've got, which I don't ever use it, oddly enough. I think I just got used to going for my applications by clicking on it through the mouse. But like, there's another way to do your run. There's D run, and then you have run. And the one that is being used in my button widget is, or my logo widget rather, the one that's being used is D run. And the one that's being used for the keys is run. And the okay. So oh yeah, show window. Oh yeah, alt tab. Your mod 1 is alt. And so I used alt tab to do Rofi window, because I like to view my windows sometimes to see what I've got running in certain backgrounds. Or sometimes I need to be able to get to a window more quickly. So I'll tend to use that key binding to get to my window switcher. Let's see what else is there. Oh yeah, I changed my reload. Awesome. I think it was like it used to be the window key shift R, but I changed it to the window key R. I took out the shift. It was starting to get annoying. And it's even more annoying when I screw up in code because it defaults to the original, and then that means that I got to go buy its original bindings. So that kind of sucks, but whenever I'm on my layout, yeah, it's great for that. So let's see, what else is there? What else did I do? I'm looking. I think I might have added the maximize. No, I think it was already added. Never mind. I think it was already added. Oh yeah, in this area too, I also did the Pac-Man thing, where if I think this was on screen that's focused. So if it's on a screen that's focused, it would do the Pac-Man thing as well. So it doesn't have to be just your one and only monitor. It also happens on the second monitor too. And I think it would happen to all other monitors. But I set it up so that way it would react to all of the monitors. And yeah, I think that's the last bit of Pac-Man code, if I'm not mistaken. Control. Let's see. I didn't do anything there. We're actually getting really close to the end of this. The auto starting programs did not work for me when it came to these rules. It just starts it wherever it wants to start it, which I find kind of maybe it's just me or something that I've done, but I couldn't get this to work for the rules. The title bar. I did do some customizations to the title bar, but then I just let me see if I commented it out. There was somewhere where I commented it out. I think it was let's see, you've got task list. Maybe it was in task list. No. Oh, here it is. So it was just after the rules for auto starting. So I commented all of this out because I didn't want anything having to do with a title bar. I may want a title bar in the future. I just don't want one right now. I think it gets in the way, and I don't like them at the moment. But I did some customizations to it, to where it would, if it was floating, then it would show the title bar, and if it wasn't floating, then it would hide it, I think. But this was when the client is floating. When it is when the layout is floating, I think that was already set. But like I said, I commented all this stuff out because I didn't want the title bars. I didn't think they looked good, so I didn't go with it. Signals, I didn't do anything with signals. Title bar stuff. But yeah, I did customize the title bar eventually. Like, if I was to uncomment that stuff out, the size of my title bar would be 24. The background would be like this gray color, and the foreground would be black. And here's the thing, I don't think I did anything different as far as I left the left the way that it was because I liked looking at the icons, and I liked having my title in the middle of my title bar. And then on the right side, I had my buttons. I didn't mess with the buttons, though. I didn't want to comment out any buttons because I felt like the buttons were there for a reason, so I just left it. So what else did I do? Oh yeah, sloppy focus. So I did this sloppy focus so that the focus would follow the mouse. So in other words, if I'm on this other monitor here, then it would follow along the Pac-Man with me. Then I could just scroll and it would change whenever it needed to change on mouse enter and stuff like that. So and actually that's the last bit of Pac-Man code, because this is nothing more than my auto start applications. And so I set the XSet stuff because it was trying to fall asleep on me, or it would it wouldn't really turn itself off, but I think it was like sleeping or something like that. And I did not want it to turn itself off for any reason. So I set all that XSet stuff there. The next was I noticed that when I tried to do stuff like start virtual camera, it would not. All right, give me a minute. Okay, so yeah, okay, so the policy kit. I got tired of having to sudo into all my programs just because a program wouldn't work or whatever without the authorization. So I made sure to have the policy kit. I made sure to have it to where it would where it would activate upon opening, or not activate, but like it would turn the service on if you reloaded or like booted into Awesome. I made sure to have it do that, so that way anytime I wanted to start a virtual camera, I would get that pop-up, because that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't giving me the pop-up to be able to type in my password and stuff like that. So that's the one thing about this policy kit, was doing that. And then I set a Pactal command. This one was because every time I log out and log back in, anyways, so that's why I did that with Pactal, because every time it just wanted to reset and I didn't like it. And I've got this set up to where it starts PyCom every time. Because I like having my little effects that I've got. Like, I was against using PyCom at first because I didn't think that I needed it. But then I started using PyCom, and it gave me some benefits. Like it gives me this transparency sort of thing with the opacity. It allows for these cool little transitions here, the little animations. That was the main reason why I got it, was because I liked the animations for it. But yeah, so not only with PyCom, I also got nm-applet, because my internet icon would disappear. I start QPW graph. I also start Firefox and Discord. I auto start. And there's no way for me to get it to start just the one time. Like, for some reason, it feels like it has to start it every single time. And I don't really get that. But yeah, that's the end of the rc.lua file. While I need to sit for a minute and like have a little break before we go through the theme.lua. But then I'll probably close the stream up a little bit. So if you guys want to talk or, say anything, you're more than welcome to say something if you're there. Oh boy. That was an hour and 40 minutes essentially of nothing but talking about this code. Boy. All right. So the theme.lua. This one is actually, before I continue on with that, I want to make sure that everything is looking okay. Okay, so I didn't see that. Okay. So, let's get on with the theme.lua, shall we? This is for the home stretch. So, as I said before, I wanted to do some styling because up here at the very top of my rc.lua file, I've got my conditions set to where we're talking about shaping my corners here on my windows. I wanted to shape my corners. So we set that code up here, but then we did a little theme thing here to where we said that the theme.client underscore shape underscore rounded is going to have a function. And this function was going to be gears.shape.rounded underscore rect. It was going to pass in CR, pass in W, and pass in H. And we said that it was going to be 20. So anytime it pulls for this gears, it's going to be using the rounded rectangle, which is what we want. Or it's what I wanted. I set the theme font. In other words, I set the theme for this to be Open Dyslexic. It is a nerd font. And as I said before, I use both Font Awesome and Nerd Font for special characters. That's just what I use. The theme background normal. I set this to transparent. And the way I did it was I added 2 zeros at the end of my code. Because it allows you to do HTML color with opacity. Trying to fiddle around with opacity. So I set it to transparent because I wanted to be able to have this effect going on up here where it looks like it's all shaped in its own little ecosystem here. So like my button and my tag list and my power button and stuff like that, it's all in this section here, and the time clock widgets and stuff like that, the notifications, they're in this section here. And then like my CPU stuff is up here. I wanted to set that there like that. And so I set it to transparent. The focus I set to white. I'm trying to, oh yeah, the focus was like whenever you are focused on an element. I don't remember what element, but I've got it set there. Urgent is on red. And actually, now that I think about it, I think I set the colors to be different. Yeah, I set the colors to be different in like when we go further down in the code, I'll show you what I mean. So minimize, I haven't seen what it was like to minimize yet. The system tray, I tried to make it transparent, but it does not go transparent. But I set the code to black. The foreground, which is like your font and stuff like that, the font I set to white. The focus was set to black. But that was because of having the background focus be white. But again, I think that got disabled when I used other code in this. So the urgent, I think we set to white. We set it to the same color as normal, I think. I don't quite remember how that worked out. Then minimize, again, I haven't used minimize, so I wouldn't know. Useless gap is what it is, exactly what it implies, is useless gaps. I mean, I don't think they're useless, but they're pretty cool, okay? And mine are like very small, but I have useless gaps. I set mine to 5. And I set the border width to 2. So this whole line up here is white because of the colors. And we set the border shape to gears.shape.rounded_rect. So it's kind of similar to this code up here, but now we're applying it to here. So then the task list. Now the task list, when I had it, I set the background focus to white and I set the foreground focus to black because it was my theming at the time. Now I'm not even using the task list, so I don't have to worry about it. The tag list, this is the reason why that other code doesn't work right now, and it's because of this code, all this code right here. So the foreground occupied is the blue from the Pac-Man ghosts in Pac-Man. So whenever it's occupied, like if you take a look at this one here, it's occupied and it's blue. So that's the reason for that. Foreground empty. I did not set one to empty. I did not need to set one to empty, so I commented it out. But just in case I need it, I've got it. So I don't have to look back for the code. The foreground focus of the tag list is, I'm not sure what this color is. I don't remember it right off. Oh yeah, I know what it is. It's the Pac-Man color. It's that yellow. So whatever the focus is, that's what the Pac-Man color is. The background focus is on black. That's why we couldn't see the background for the other. The background occupied is black, and so is the background empty. So for all the backgrounds in our tag list, we set it to black. So that's why you typically don't see anything there. And I was playing around with some stuff with a tag list. Like I set a shape focus, shape border, and stuff like that. I did all of that, and then I set the border color, and I did it using rounded rect for the gears.shape. And I did that because of a theme that I was using, or a theme that I had come up with at one point, or that I had designed rather. I was using it for that and found out I no longer needed it for this current setup, so I commented it out in case I needed it. Then the tooltip background is black and the foreground is white because I don't want anything special there. What else did I do? Didn't I set a background here somewhere? Yeah, here we go. I set my theme.wallpaper. It's in .config/awesome/default/background.png. And then it loads all these other images. So yeah, that was pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the code. Trying to think of anything else. Let me see what else is going on. Okay, I'm not sure what you're recommending me here. Slower than the recommended bitrate. Oh, that's the recommended bitrate. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. That you use a stream bitrate of 60. Okay, I'll keep that in mind next time. I'll keep it in mind just to do like I used to do. Because I used to have my bitrate at like, I think it was 6,000. But they're saying it's lower than the... Oh, well, it's recommended, so I guess it doesn't really matter. All right, I'll stick it here for about 10 more minutes, and then I'll leave the stream if I don't hear back. But yeah, that was a look through the code. Quite a bit of it. And I would imagine this video is going to be a mess because of all the stops that I had to make. But I also heard from people that they wanted a longer video. And this is the only format in which I can give a longer video, especially in terms of this topic. So yeah, how's everybody doing? Hope y'all doing good. I'm just trying to think of if there's anything else that I'm missing with the coding, because I don't think I am. I think I pretty much covered everything. But like I said, I've got, as far as like doing more content on AwesomeWM, there's content to be made in terms of how to do stuff, like how to get borders, how to get the backgrounds, how to do all that sort of good stuff. As far as widgets go, the only other things that I've got is like, I've got the microphone widget and then I've got the tag list. Those are the only things that I've got left to do as far as tutorials. And then I can start focusing on other elements of AwesomeWM. All right. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more that people want to say, so I guess I'll just go ahead and end the stream for tonight. I want to thank everyone for stopping by. Thanks everyone in the future for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. And I shall see you guys in the next stream, I guess. Yeah, the next stream. All right, have a good one.